The final episode of Season 1 of Andor, titled Rick's Road, is out. Tony Gilroy delivers one of the best season finales in recent memory. Across the 12 episodes leading up to this dramatic conclusion, fans of the series have hailed Andor as the best project Star Wars has seen since the original trilogy. But what questions remain after this finale? What did we learn about Dedra, Luthen, and even Maarva? If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on all new reviews I put out weekly here at Off the Cover. And without further ado, onto the video. With the death of his mother Maarva weighing on his spirit and the fires of the rebellion now burning in his soul, Cassian Andor makes his return to Ferrix for her funeral. When he arrives, he discovers that he is not the only resident that has caught the spark of the rebellion. The final episode opens quietly on Ferrix, where Wilmon Pak is studiously building something. It only takes a few moments to see that he isn't repairing a gadget, he's building an explosive. With a hologram of his late father Salman watching him work, there's no question that he's planning to turn the funeral into direct action against the Empire. These scenes showcase what might have been for Cassian in an interesting parallel to Cassian's own childhood. Not only does this show an alternate path Cassian might have taken, but it shows that there is no longer any room for complacency from anyone within the Empire's reach. Dedra Meero also returns to Ferrix in anticipation of Cassian's arrival. She showcases the Empire's primary weakness. She's so confident that this is going to be a defining moment in her career that she can't picture failure. Shortly after her arrival, she and Corv go undercover to get a feel for what's happening on the streets of Ferrix, completely unaware of Cinta trailing them the entire time. Back on Coruscant, Mon Mothma waits outside a social gathering for Perrin to finish schmoozing with the other guests. From the moment she gets in the transport, the camera settles on her, and this seems to signify there is more to this evening than we expect. When Perrin gets in the transport, they trade jabs at each other. Then Mon Mothma is quick to ask the driver for some privacy. Here we see that the driver is working for the Empire and is listening to every conversation she has with great interest. Their argument centers around Perrin gambling again. He's quick to defend himself, but Mon remains firm in her belief that he's been squandering money and lying about. It's easy to see that Mon is laying groundwork to pin the blame for their financial situation on her husband and get the Empire off her trail. Cassian makes what looks to be his reckless return to Ferrix, and it isn't immediately clear what his plan is. Aboard the ship he scored on Narkina 5, he finally listens to Nemik's manifesto and reflects on his childhood. It's a short, dreamlike recollection of a moment he shared with Clem wherein his adoptive father is talking about rust and making repairs to the equipment, rather than replacing them with something new. Despite the circumstances of how Clem and Maarva came into Cassian's life, it's clear that he was loved and well cared for by them. Whatever plan Cassian may have had with going to Ferrix goes right out the window when he learns what the Empire has done with Bix. Maarva might be dead, but Bix is still alive, and he quickly devises a plan to rescue her before he loses another person he cares about. Cassian isn't the only person to return to Ferrix. Vel and Luthen have also arrived in hopes of taking out the final loose thread from the Aldhani mission. Vel's arrival is a little more fraught with emotion than Luthen's, considering Cinta didn't pick her up at the shipyard because she was too busy trailing Dedra and Corv. Of course, Vel recognizes that getting information for the rebellion is more critical, but that doesn't change the fact that she's clearly upset about being left behind to find her own way to their hideout. As expected, Mon Mothma's driver takes the information he learned about her financial situation directly to the ISB, and Blevin is easily convinced that Perrin is responsible for her questionable banking decisions. While Dedra is listening to the plans that the daughters of Ferrix have requested for Maarva's funeral, Blevin and the rest of the ISB are buzzing with excitement that they get to execute Anto Krieger. Dedra is livid that her superiors dispatch Krieger for show rather than using him to get more information about the rebellion, and she quickly reminds her officers on Ferrix that she wants Cassian taken into custody alive. And while the Empire is keeping their eyes out for any signs of the galaxy's most wanted man, Pegla has successfully hidden him away somewhere safe so he can devise a plan to get Bix out of Imperial hands. Personally, I would have thought that Maarva's funeral was a ruse and she would return to show the Empire what the rebellion is truly like. But the producers gave us a more poignant, nuanced scene. As the marching band starts tuning their instruments and the time grappler takes his place atop the bell tower on Rick's Road, tensions begin to mount throughout the city. Rather than staying amidst the growing crowds in the streets, Cassian takes to the upper levels of Ferrix. Rescuing Bix isn't something that Dedra has factored into her plans for the funeral. As crowds begin to gather, we see the culmination of Andor's words from a few episodes prior. The Imperial troops are terrified of the size of the crowd that has turned out for Maarva's funeral. They're practically shaking in their boots at the mere sight of a mediocre marching band, and ready to don riot gear as the daughters of Ferrix begin flooding the streets. But it's Maarva's self-eulogy that gives flight to real fear. Maarva knew that she was dying, and she knew that, while she wasn't able to lend physical strength to the rebellion, she could lend her spirit and sense of duty in death. In a rousing speech, her final words were a call to arms, a call to rebel. While Mon Mothma is a capable leader of the rebellion in the original trilogy, it's Maarva who is the real spark. In a sense, she could be the real mother of the rebellion. When Cassian finally reaches Bix, he's not at all prepared for what he finds. He's seen firsthand the horrors of the Empire back on Narkina 5, but now the Empire's reach has touched those he knew and loved, those he grew up with. Instead of fleeing the planet with the rest of them, he goes after Luthen and gives him a choice. Either kill him or let him into the rebellion. This is usually not how spies are recruited, but it seems to be effective, and we are left with this final scene to contemplate until Season 2. And the stinger at the end of the credits proved exactly just what Cassian was working on back on Narkina 5, and what fans suspected had been the case. Andor is the perfect example of what Star Wars is able to do with the right team of creatives that aren't woke activists. It stands as a testament to the kinds of stories that television as a whole is capable of doing. The world is not as black and white as people might wish it to be. Nuanced stories with depth and forethought are what good television is really about. Tony Gilroy seems to have overpowered Kathleen Kennedy, much to our collective enjoyment, and delivered a show that is free of woke activisms, and the fans rejoice. With the ouster of Bob Chapek, we have no reason to believe that the activists won't see a resurgence. But maybe, just maybe, Bob Iger can see the light and clean up the House of Mouse so that we can continue quality material like Andor. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more great content.